Well, I guess it's good afternoon. Thank you all for coming today. As you see, just a little while ago, on the advice and instructions coming from the governor and myself, that we have issued a stop work order to 460 Mobility Partners. Those are the contractor that were building 460, to temporarily stop work on that project until, quite frankly, we end up knowing where we're going to actually be going. When I became Secretary of Transportation, or nominated towards the end of last year, it was about the same time that the state had hired outside consultants to help with this project and the permitting. As you know, it was signed back in 2012, and the last year this ongoing process had been occurring. Met with the consultants, and they pointed out three things to the state. One, that the Army Corps of Engineers was very well within their rights to ask that other alternatives be considered. Two, that this was a significant mitigation, almost 500 acres or impact to wetlands, and then unless a significant mitigation of the wetlands could be accomplished, that the permit on this particular right-of-way would be difficult to obtain. And three, that entering to a supplemental environmental impact statement would be appropriate to look at alternatives, because we are still committed to achieving the mobility, the hurricane evacuation, and the economic development opportunities in the corridor. So the purpose and need of the project, we are still firmly behind. So upon Governor McAuliffe coming into office, we took the decision to limit work with our partners on the project to the permitting process and to looking at alternatives. That process went on for a couple of months, and just in the last couple of days, it was brought to my attention that there could not be a significant mitigation of the wetland impact on the current corridor, on the current record of decision. So therefore, that has led us to bring to this decision today that we are stopping work on that permit and on that corridor until we determine what our alternatives are in looking at different corridors. They may include the current 460 enhancements. I need to stress also, this corridor still could be the one selected, although it would have to show that it had a lesser impact on the environment than the other alternatives. So as we go forward, all the work and all the emphasis will be put on looking at those alternatives to meet the purpose and the need that I've explained earlier of what this project will do. I recently, on the way over here, met with Colonel Olson from the Army Corps of Engineers. I shared with him the news, and we agreed that we now were aligned on the state, and the Army Corps of Engineers was aligned on what we were trying to accomplish. So I'm very comfortable that we will be making improvements in the corridor. I just can't tell you which alignment they will be on. Now let me give you a little bit of history as to how we got here. As you know, this contract was a result of the P3 process, or the Public-Private Transportation Act. And in 2012, a comprehensive agreement was signed with 460 Mobility Partners, the contractor, 460 Funding Corporation, which was as the name implies, the funding corporation that would be responsible for the bonds and subsequent tolling, and VDOT. And VDOT was to be responsible for the construction of the project, overseeing the contractor, the continued maintenance, and negotiating that construction contract. Just as a decision I have taken today, along with Governor McAuliffe, to halt work until we get the assessments of the alternatives, it would have been the decision of the previous administration directing VDOT on the contract. So I want to point out that that procurement was for the P3, and therefore did not have to go through the normal procurement guidelines. Now, some people would say in the P3 process that's greater transparency, more economic competition. Opponents would say you only had certain people looking at it. I'll leave that to how you decide, but it went through the P3 process with the ultimate decision being with the previous administration. As we entered into the past year, the contractor mobilized and began his work and was paid in accordance with the contractor payment schedule. And as you all well know, many of you reported on the issues we were having in obtaining the permit. To date, approximately almost $300 million have been spent on this project working forward. And it did not appear that we would be good stewards or fiduciaries of the taxpayers' money to continue to pay the contractor until we determined again what alignment we would be putting these improvements on. We have talked with our contractor, 460 Mobility Partners, and they are working with us. But I want to make clear that they have done all the work that was necessary for us to obtain a permit, should that corridor be selected, and they've done all the environmental work on that corridor that we need to be looked at during the updated environmental impact statement. So the contractor has done what it was called for under the contract. We are now waiting to get direction on a permit as to what we will construct. So upon that, it will take about a year for this process to go through, which will be public hearings and all the associated ramifications of going through this environmental study. At the end of that, a decision will be made on the preferred corridor, and then we will move forward on buying right-of-way and moving to construction. I'm sure if the current corridor isn't selected, we will have some other design work to do. But that brings us to where we are and to why the decision was made today to stop work on the contract and the project in terms of construction on this right-of-way. But I want to make it clear, we are not backing off the project. We believe that it's very important that we get enhanced mobility in that corridor, that we get an evacuation route to help evacuate this area in case we need it, and also for economic development of the port and supporting all the activities in Hampton Roads. So that is the reasoning as to why we made the decision today, how we are moving forward, focusing only on working with the Corps of Engineers to find what we can permit that will meet the purpose and need which I've described. And we believe being good stewards of the taxpayers and our citizens by only spending money on that until we determine where we're headed from here.